All right, let's talk about prostate supplements. You see them everywhere, right? Millions of guys are taking them, hoping for some relief. But here's the big question. Do they actually work? We're going to dig into the science and separate the hope from the hype. So, let me ask you something. Does this sound familiar? You know, the weak stream, feeling like you have to go all the time, that sudden, urgent need, or, oh man, waking up in the middle of the night again and again. If you're nodding your head right now, trust me, you are definitely not alone. This is just reality for a ton of men out there. Just look at this number, 80%. That is huge. It means that by age 80, a staggering 8 out of 10 men will have an enlarged prostate. We're not talking about some rare condition here. This is, for a lot of guys, a pretty normal part of getting older. And that right there, that's exactly why you see so many supplements promising a fix. And that really brings us to the heart of the matter, doesn't it? When you're dealing with all this, it's no wonder that millions of guys turn to these natural supplements. I mean, the promise of a gentle, plant-based solution sounds pretty great. But is there any real proof behind that promise? Today, we are going to follow the evidence and see what it actually says. Okay, so first things first, let's talk about what we're actually dealing with here. The whole natural remedy idea is super appealing, right? But, and this is a big but, it comes with some real problems you've got to understand before we even get to the clinical studies. The fancy scientific term for these things is phytotherapeutic products. All that means is they come from plants. And here's the catch, the real kicker. Plants aren't all the same. Unlike a carefully measured dose in a prescription drug, the amount of the good stuff, the active ingredient, can be all over the place. It depends on where it was grown, when it was harvested, the whole shebang. And this is where it gets kind of wild. Check this out. A study looked at 27 different saw palmetto products off the shelf. Now, to even have a chance of working, the science says it needs to have at least 85% of the key active ingredient. So what did they find? The amounts were all over the map. Some had basically zero. Others had up to 95%. The bottom line? Only about 17% of them even met the minimum standard. It's literally a lottery every time you pick a bottle. So, okay, what's the theory here? How are these things supposed to work? Well, it pretty much boils down to 3 ideas. First, they might help reduce inflammation, which we know is a big part of the problem. Second, they could slow down the signals that tell prostate cells to grow and multiply. And third, this is a big one, they might block an enzyme that turns testosterone into another hormone called DHT, which is a major driver of prostate growth. All right, with all that background, let's open up our first case file. And we're starting with the big one, the most famous of them all, saw palmetto. Its story is actually a perfect example of how science works, from early hope to a really clear conclusion. This timeline really lays it all out. Back in the 90s, you had these small, promising studies, and boom, saw palmetto is everywhere. But then, scientists started doing bigger, better studies. In 2006, a major high-quality trial found it worked no better than a sugar pill. Then in 2011, they did another one. This time, they even tripled the dose, and still nothing. The final word came in 2012 from a huge review that looked at all the best studies. The conclusion was crystal clear. Saw palmetto just isn't effective. And you know what? This isn't a story about failure. It's actually a great example of science doing its job. As Dr. Reena Malik, a urologist, points out, this happens all the time. You get these exciting little glimmers of hope from small studies, but when you really put it to the test with more people over a longer time, that initial effect just disappears. It's not a bad thing. It's how we separate what might work from what really does. Okay, so the heavyweight champ, saw palmetto, is down for the count. But what about all the other contenders? Let's run through a quick fire round of the other popular ones you're going to see out there. All right, let's look at the scorecard. First up, Pejam africanum. Some positive results, sure, but the studies were super short, like 2 months. We have no idea if it works long term. Next, pumpkin seed. Okay, it seemed to help with how people felt, but when they actually measured things like urine flow, no difference. Then we've got beta-sitosterol. A review from way back in '99 found it improved symptoms and flow, but, and it's a big but, it didn't actually reduce the size of the prostate. And finally, stinging nettle. A study showed it helped, but only when it was taken with saw palmetto. Plus, it can mess with a bunch of common medications. You see the pattern here, right? It's a whole lot of maybes and buts. Hang on, before we move on, I have to go back to that pumpkin seed study for a second, because this is just incredible. Get this, while nearly 2/3 of the guys taking the actual supplement said their symptoms improved, more than half, 54%, of the guys taking a totally fake sugar pills said the exact same thing. That right there is the placebo effect in action. It is unbelievably powerful. Just the act of taking a pill that you believe will help can make you feel better. Okay, so we've looked at the wild inconsistency in these products, we've looked at how they're supposed to work, and we've gone through the actual clinical trials. So, what's the bottom line? What's the final verdict from our investigation? Let's boil it all down. Here are the key things to remember. 1, the evidence on saw palmetto, the most popular one, is really strong and really clear. It doesn't work any better than a placebo. 2, for all the other guys, PyGM, pumpkin seed, and the rest, the evidence is just, well, it's pretty weak and shaky. 3, you never really know what you're getting in the bottle. It's a total gamble. 4, never ever underestimate the power of the placebo effect. And finally, and maybe most importantly, your real goal here is to improve your quality of life. And based on the science, these supplements just don't seem to be a reliable way to do that. So, when you put it all together, the scientific consensus is pretty straightforward. The evidence just doesn't support a strong recommendation for any of these supplements when it comes to actually shrinking the prostate or making a real, measurable difference in urinary flow. So, what does this all mean for you? Well, it means you're now armed with the facts. And while some people might swear these supplements help them, which, hey, could absolutely be that powerful placebo effect we talked about, the hard science just isn't there. If your symptoms are really bothering you, the evidence points toward talking with a doctor about proven treatments. In the end, finding relief is a personal journey for sure, but it should be a journey guided by solid evidence. The real question to ask yourself is, what's the right path for you to genuinely improve your quality of life?